but it didn't. After running some tests, I realized it was because of how I plumbed this. The tubing was just too small to provide enough water. Unfortunately, I couldn't run a bigger one without making my own plumbing pieces. Luckily, I have a lot of fittings and other items I could use instead. I cut a piece off of this random thing because when combined with an O-ring, it could act just like a bulkhead for a larger tube. I did a test run just to ensure it could work, and it was better than ever. I finalized this all simply with a vinyl tube and a hose clamp. That meant I could put focus on the terrarium. I'll only briefly discuss what I did here because I changed it later, but it went as follows. I placed a few small stones for added definition, followed by a layer of aqua soil. I wanted this terrarium to include a lot of moss, so I put it everywhere. Java moss is always kind of flat when you first add it, but it gets a dense and upright look as it matures. Either way, it was great to finally see some green in the design. Then I added a top dressing of gravel and sand before placing moss on the bottom as well. Moss wouldn't be enough though, I worked in Anubias and ficus too. Because the container is so small and there are waterfalls, I was kinda limited on what plants I could include. When I came up with this design, I imagined a forest in the aquarium. That said, it took a lot of trial and error to get something I felt matched the hardscape. Initially, I filled the bottom with a mix of aqua soil, gravel, and sand. With the jungle, I figured the appearance of substrate didn't matter as much. However, even with cloudy water, I knew this wouldn't look right in the end. I decided to take it apart and try again. That included the bottom of the terrarium because I wanted to maximize the cohesion between the two environments. This time I laid a foundation with substrate bags to better control this area's appearance. Then I built up a layer of gravel that matched the dragonstone and filled the rest with sand to add finer textures. I used the same gravel in the terrarium to keep with this theme before putting the other items back. Since I planted the aquarium dry the first time, I figured I'd get a better feel this time with water. The result wasn't much better though, because when I looked from afar, I realized how sloppy it appeared. It also took away from the hardscape I painstakingly created earlier. As I considered my options, I realized the answer was right in front of me, the firewood paludarium. It's simple, yet looks appealing, and provides an excellent habitat for the fish. With this less is more inspiration, I went at the scape entirely different for the third and final time. I stuck with just a few plant species instead of using 10 plus like I did before. I was also more strategic about where I placed them. My goal was to get the best impact possible from them while retaining the appearance of the hardscape. Speaking of hardscape, I added a few additional elements on that front as well. I think these helped and in some ways made it easier to plant the remainder of the items. As I saw this foliage fill in, I felt like the terrarium could use more as well. Photonia seemed like a good option because it could grow outside the terrarium as well in a riparian setting. I mixed in spider plants and some floaters too. Here's what I was left with. I think this